My name is Aaron Witcher, and this is my contribution to the graduate exhibition about my dissertation project entitled Tourner autour du Mahagony, so turning around the Mahagony, Marooning Poetics of Martinican literature. The primary sense of marronage refers to fugitive slaves, specifically their flight or egress from plantation spaces to forested and or mountainous regions. Yet, the sense of this notion has grown in significance and meaning since the era of slavery and colonialism in Martinique, to now refer to, among other things, a large gamut of activity and resistance, be it political, cultural, memorial, or otherwise. Marronage comprises, then, a dynamic set of practices that resist, circumvent, and challenge both colonial and neo-colonial systems of power and control. My dissertation, entitled Tourner autour du Mahagony, Marooning Poetics of Martinican Literature, explores the dynamic and often synergistic practices comprising marronage, notably flight, fugitivity, and remembering pasts effaced by the Middle Passage. Specifically, I look at how these dynamics are taken up by four Martinican authors and translated into poetics that aim to decolonize Caribbean space, history, and identity. Simply put, poetics refers to particular modes of expression and thought that inflect how readers apprehend the world. Marooning poetics, then, are forms of knowledge and discourse that derive aesthetic and epistemological inspiration from historical acts of marronage. Through their marooning poetics, the authors of my corpus articulate novel literary forms that change readers' imaginaries concerning, among other things, Creole identity, the history of enslaved populations, colonialism, neo-colonialism, and practices of freedom. Thus, I contend that Patrick Chamoiseau's novel Slave Old Man, for example, incorporates the dynamics of flight, namely of being a fugitive slave, both in the content and form of his novel. By doing so, he explores how the act of flight, both for his protagonist and for himself as author, articulates decolonial and ecological forms of identity, culture, and even language. This marooning poetics, then, allows Chamoiseau to imagine the experience of a marooned slave, something largely effaced in the historical record, while also identifying himself as a descendant of such a marooned slave and his traditions. In the same way, I examine how Fabienne Canard and Alfred Alexandre realize poetics based respectively on remembering and fugitivity as two other dynamics of marronage. My project focuses on four authors from the Caribbean island of Martinique. I chose to limit my corpus to this region in order to better anchor my account of marooning poetics within a well-defined historical and social conjuncture. From this particular vantage point, my research then contributes to a more general picture of the Caribbean, as well as its literatures, philosophies, and histories. Because of his pivotal contribution to the study and conceptualization of marronage, I start my research with the novel Mahagony, or Mahagony by Edouard Glissant, which I use as a springboard to theorize marooning poetics. From this starting point, each of the following chapters of my dissertation explores how the other authors of my corpus innovate their own marooning poetics that sometimes converge, diverge, complement, and even contradict the poetics put forward by Glissant. By tracking these evolutions, I demonstrate the dynamism of marronage and its translation into poetics. If the vast majority of scholarly work conducted on marronage has intervened in the fields of history, anthropology, and sociology, my methodology privileges literature as a site that likewise produces history, theory, and philosophy. While my methodology still avails itself of the contextual information garnered from each of the aforementioned domains, I believe that Creole literatures offer unique insights into decolonial modes of expression and thought that grapple with questions of history and memory in post-colonial spaces, slavery and resistance, gender and race, and Creole identity and culture. By way of general conclusion, it has become apparent that by engaging with marronage, both its past and present, the writers of my corpus not only respond to lacuna in Western historiography, which is largely effaced through misrepresentation or elision maroon history and experience, but they also point to the renewed purchase of thinking through marronage, its practices, and its legacies in order to combat the social, cultural, economic, and ecological repercussions of colonialism and neo-colonialism.